Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. I'm in the Tony Awards pop-up shop in the Paramount Hotel, sitting with Tony Yazbeck, who was nominated for Best Actor in a Musical for his incredible performance as Gaby in the hit revival of On the Town. Please welcome Tony Yazbeck. Welcome.
Thank you, Richie. I'm so
Thanks
happy
for
to be
kicking
here.
off my series here
Yes,
today.
all right, let's do this.
Okay, you were giving one of the finest performances this season at On the Town.
Thanks.
And you've been nominated for a Tony Award for Best Actor in a Musical. Have you
Yeah.
been able to put the whole thing into perspective?
No, I'm still sort of waking up out of the shock I've felt since Tuesday, two Tuesdays ago. And it's been sort of a really busy time. But honestly, I'm still sort of in the clouds with it all. Yeah, absolutely. It's been an amazing time so far.
Looking back at that day, you weren't at home. I think you were in the park with your wife.
Yes, I was in the park with my wife, and I really had no idea which way it was going to go. You know, in this business, you don't really expect anything. So I was trying to be with my wife and really just kind of be thankful for what we had already this year. It's been an incredible year, opening the show, getting married at about the same time I opened the show, and so when her phone started exploding and she started crying, and I think at that moment I went, are you kidding? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I think I said that like 10 times to her until I just realized this was real, and I started jumping up and down like an idiot.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty wonderful morning. Yeah.
Been a great 2 weeks, right?
Great 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And to feel like I'm able to represent the show in a way. The fact that John Rando got nominated and Josh, and the show is nominated in Best Revival, and we've just done such hard work as a cast up to this point. So it feels really wonderful to have our show be so recognized the way it is.
Yeah. You inhabit the role of Gaby so wholeheartedly. Why do you connect so well with the role?
I think I connect to a lot of characters that have to be open-hearted and vulnerable in a very sort of maybe naive in a worldly way, but the ability to express fully what he's feeling at any moment. I've done some characters like that, and to be able to have Gaby, who does that at moment's notice, and sing and dance his expression. Well, that's just like icing on the cake to be able to be in a musical like that. So to be able to sing, dance, and act a role that has to completely give up his entire heart on a stage, that's always been like my dream, to do something like that, especially even as a kid, watching Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly and watching what they do, seeing their style and going, how do I put that into who I am and make it my style? And say something really important on the stage that people can connect to. So I guess it's something I'm passionate about, and I want to connect to an audience with it.
Yeah. What's it like living in the world of Leonard Bernstein, Betty Comden, Adolph Green, and the world of On the Town?
Well, it's sort of a nice, beautiful surprise, because I wasn't totally aware of how beautiful this show was until when I did it at City Center a while back. And when I discovered it, and I discovered how beautiful this score was, all the lengthy ballets. I mean, just listening to the Lonely Town Pas de Deux every night, I literally can hear the clarinet, just the way he wrote each bar of music, just, it's so haunting to me. That's probably one of my favorite parts of the show is listening to that orchestra, either while I'm dancing or while I'm watching my fellow actors on the stage do their beautiful thing. So for me, I get lost in this music. So when I discovered the show and discovered this role, and I was able to be part of it, I felt very lucky to do that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize how gorgeous a score could be until I realized, wow, this is like this. Now I knew West Side Story, so I knew he could write. But then you go into these ballets especially the second act Dream Ballet, and you realize, wow, what a lush score this is, and how you can just give your whole heart and soul into the dance. That for me, it was exciting because there was so much to explore, especially in rehearsal. I mean, you could really do a lot.
Well, let's talk about working with director John Rando and choreographer Josh Bergasse.
Sure. John is basically our fearless leader in the most heartfelt, spiritual way, I could say. This man inspires all of us. I mean, he came around to the theater and he spoke to us again the other day, and we were all just so uplifted, and like we just felt an overwhelming sense of not only pride for our show, but love for the creators again. He has this way of helping us understand that this show is important. It's important not only for the theater community, but it's also important for us to give back to the audience because of what the original creators wanted to say. And you know, being in wartime and having love be so important, and wanting to, you know, not miss a beat. You know, some other time that song, it really resonates as almost an anthem for the entire show. And so, you know, this man sort of he sort of led our whole company. Everybody from behind the scenes to the orchestra, the cast, he was an incredible glue for us, and you basically just trusted him. And as far as Josh goes, I mean, Josh has just like become the best collaborator I could ever imagine. First of all, he's like, the way he moves his body is amazing, but he has a vision and he sees it, and then he goes, here's a step, what do you think? And then I take it, and then he goes, yes, and that's an incredible collaborator to have. A choreographer that takes who you are and molds who you are on the stage to make it move. I mean, you can't ask for anything better than that.
One of the many show-stopping moments of this show is the gorgeous pas de deux that you dance with Megan Fairchild in the second act. What was it like creating that? How long did it take you to work on that, the two of you with Josh?
It took a while. When we were at Barrington, we actually didn't have the whole thing. We cut a bunch of music because we didn't have enough time. So when we came to New York, we knew that we had to do the entire score, top to bottom, no cuts. So in rehearsal, we took a lot of time with that Dream Ballet. Megan and I worked really well together right away. We had incredible chemistry. As a dancer, she's just basically the best there is. But even just as an ensemble piece, that 10-minute ballet, it took a while. There was a lot of cuts and pulls and trying to trim this and trying to figure out the best story. I mean, Josh was all about story, especially for that ballet. And he really wanted to understand why Gaby was going through this dream. And to get to her by the end, and what was that big arc we had to take. I think just that, especially the beginning of the ballet is always really exciting for me. There's this beautiful, lengthy adagio part where Bernstein writes, and these dancers come on very slowly, and they're doing these lifts, and there's this beautiful partnering work that's happening, and Gaby's seeing the whole thing around him happen. And then all of a sudden, you see Ivy come in, and she leaves, and she comes in, and she leaves again, and it's almost like we're teasing the audience for about what's about to happen halfway through the ballet. So yeah, it was a monster work in progress in rehearsal, and by the time we got to the stage, I think we all knew we had something really special to give.
Because Josh has put his own spin on this, but it's also a beautiful homage to MGM.
Oh yeah,
the whole number, especially.
I mean, the lighting.
Yeah.
The lighting comes in, and you're supposedly. I've never even seen it because I'm doing it, but somebody said, you know, oh, when she jumps into your arms and leaps into you, the lighting happens, and you feel like you're transported back into the time of the golden era, and I just go, oh, that just warms my heart. That's like everything I've always wanted to do and to give, and so yeah, so you know, they all worked together to create this beautiful emotional feeling that just, I guess, takes over. Yeah.
Because let's go back to growing up. You just talked about the golden age of MGM and everything else. You were brought up on Gene Kelly, right? Who were your two dance idols growing up?
You know, it was Fred Astaire at first. I watched Fred because I think he was like perfection to me. It was almost like, here's this perfect technician who kind of, you never saw a fault. You're like, where's the misstep? Where's the crack in the, you know, I watched that and it made me want to work. Yeah. So I would practice my tap down in the basement and I just work like hours a day. And my mother was like a disciplinarian. I mean, she really just like kept me going, thank God. As much as I hated it back in the day, but she would just keep practicing, keep practicing. You're not coming upstairs until you keep practicing, you know, you're done practicing. I mean, it was literally like that. But you know, it works out sometimes. Yeah. And I didn't really discover Gene until I was, I don't know, 13, 14, which was, you know, early still, but
Sure.
late as a kid. And I watched him and I went, oh, there's a personality that I'm attracted to there. There's a masculinity, a personality, and sex appeal, which makes sense that I wouldn't understand it until 13, 14 or so.
Mhm.
And I think that I finally, I grasped Gene Kelly and I started to go, oh, I just want to follow. So I watched everything he did. And then I got a little older and I started to flock to Gregory Hines. I started to watch this man just in his own sex appeal and his own style with these incredible tap steps.
Yeah.
You know, the movie Tap. You know, to this day, if I'm feeling a little down, I just put on the challenge scene and tap, and I watch it and I go, okay, I'm good again. I think I'll have a good day today. You know, I mean, it's amazing how some things just lift you up out of nowhere. Or you watch Singing in the Rain and you just go, I need to watch Moses Opposes. I think that might just take me out of the gutter. Okay, I'm good again. All right, great.
Do you do that in your show?
In my solo show?
Yeah.
Yeah, Moses Opposes is actually one of my numbers. Clyde House,
Yeah.
my co-star, he does it with me. We have a blast, but it is one of the numbers that I do in my solo show.
So
Yeah.
talk about your solo show.
Okay, it was a couple of years ago where I wanted to create something out of nothing, and a collaborator friend of mine, Howard Emanuel, we got together and we wrote a show. Of course, it comes from my life from when I was a kid up until now, basically, and it creates a story from wanting to live in an MGM era and being stuck in it and feeling like either you can't get cast anywhere else or you feel like you're just lost in that era. And perhaps you were born in the wrong era. And so it comes from that feeling to some vulnerable things that happened to me where my parents got divorced, you know, and then going through love and loss and then finding love again and really understanding where it all comes from. And wanting to find the fantasy with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, watching them dance together on stage, you know. And so I put it all together, and there's a mashup of a whole bunch of material from old golden era stuff to Coldplay and Joni Mitchell, and I threw it up there. And there's a lot of tap dancing, which I always wanted to do a lot of tap in a show. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it myself. So yeah, so we're actually our next show is at Birdland the end of June 28th.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And you're going into the studio, you're going to record an album, right?
Yeah, we're going to do a studio recording of that actual show, which I'm really excited about. I think the week after Tony's we're going to record, and then it'll come out in August. Yeah.
You have this wonderful career, so I'm going to mention some of your highlights. And just tell me what comes to mind, a story or a memory, okay? Let's start with your history with the musical Gypsy.
Gypsy, I was a child actor. I was 11 years old, auditioned on the stage at the St. James Theater, got the part right away. I was told downstairs in the wardrobe room at the St. James Theater that I had been cast. 2 days later, I was starting rehearsals. I was in the show 3 days after that. It was like really quick, bam, bam, bam. The most incredible experience, probably still just because it's so heightened as a child. Watching Tyne Daly from the Wings every night, watching Bob Lambert do All He Needs the Girl and going, I'd love to do that one day, you know. Just incredible. Just the sights and sounds of New York City. For me, Gypsy was New York, you know. Gypsy was Broadway. And then as an adult, to be able to do it at City Center, which I thought, oh, that's enough. We did 3 weeks, and I can't believe I actually got to play Tulsa with Patti LuPone and Arthur Lawrence, and it's just, you know. And then you get a call that's going to Broadway, and you just think, well, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Just so ridiculously lucky. And it was one of those jobs that I have to say I never ever wanted to end. I never wanted it to end. There have been jobs in my life where I'm like, 6 months will go by, I'm like, okay, I'm tired, I'm ready for a break, I want it to end, and that job, I could have kept going forever. That was
I love
fun.
how it came full circle. You started out as a little kid playing a newsboy,
Yeah.
and then you end up being the, you know, the
I
older
think-
version, Tulsa.
I think people underestimate children sometimes. I think, you know, as a kid, I was 11 years old and I took that number in, and I watched the direction. I watched how he performed it. I also watched how the choreography. There was something so soulful about the Robbins choreography that I took to, and I remembered it. And I kept remembering it as a kid. Even when I went back to school, I worked on a farm for a while. I went back to high school. I was in the middle of nowhere in the Poconos, but like, you hold on to something all your life, and then you get into a room and somebody gives you a chance, and you got like one chance, and you go, all right, be vulnerable enough and remember it all and give it the way you remember it, and sometimes it works out. Yeah.
Did Arthur hire you?
He did. He was in the room. I had one audition. I sort of forced my way into this final callback because at the time they weren't sure about my type and everything. So I made something happen basically, and got in the room, and Arthur was there, and he was told at that time that I was a kid with his other gypsy, and he found that interesting, and I got the call that night that I'd be doing at City Center, and it just blew my mind. Yeah.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. White Christmas.
White Christmas. White Christmas came about, let's see, I did the Toronto version, which sort of came out of nowhere. I auditioned and I got this part, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's a song and dance part with tap. And it's Randy Skinner, who I've always admired, and so I went to Toronto with it and had the best time in a show possible. I came back, and it was the second year they were doing the Broadway show. I was at the Goodman when I got the call. Actually, Mara Davi and I, who ended up doing those parts on Broadway, we were at the Goodman playing opposite each other at the Goodman and Animal Crackers. And we got the call, and we were like, I guess we're going to Broadway in like 3 months. And that was just like totally shot out of the blue. We didn't have to necessarily re-audition or anything. And it was just sort of like the next step, I guess. But I had a blast. I wish it was longer. It was like 8 weeks and done.
But at Christmas time, I'm sure it was just beautiful.
Oh yeah, you just had, it's like the most amazing feel-good show, and then it snows on stage. You're like, we're just making everyone happy right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Billy Flynn in Chicago, because you were probably the youngest Billy Flynn, right?
I think I was.
Yeah.
I think I was I was 31 or 32, I think, at the time. No, maybe I was a little older. I was 31. Yes, I went in, and let's see, my first show was actually the show that Chicago and A Chorus Line tied for the longest American Broadway show, I think it was, something like that, which I found really great. And the hurricane was that season. And all these things were happening right around my first show. And they made me they gave me a little more dancing for the razzle dazzle. So I got this vest that said Usher on the back. And I realized, this was Usher's jacket when he came in. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. So I got to wear Usher's jacket, and they told me that only Patrick Swayze, Usher, and myself ever had the ability to have some dancing and some phrasing of their own style. And I thought, cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So, but I loved that job.
Yeah.
I mean,
Great show.
My first week was working with Charlotte Bois, too,
Yeah.
who's my favorite Roxy of all time. She's
Yeah.
just unbelievable. And so I was able to learn from the best, work with her, and then I worked with like maybe 5 or 6 other Roxys after that. Yeah.
During your run.
Yeah.
Love it. A Chorus Line.
A Chorus Line. A Chorus Line was a nail-biting time to get a show. They made it very, very stressful for all of us in the audition time, but I think probably for wonderful reason. And it was that kind of show. It was about getting a job and putting yourself fully out there. I remember, I'll never forget that they let us know 3 or 4 months in advance that the final callback, I think we got a call in October for the end of January. You have a final callback end of January on the stage of the Broadhurst Theater, and it's between you and somebody else. And you're like, I have to wait 4 months and think about this every single day? Yeah, so I'll never forget that, how much torture they put us through for that.
Were they filming the documentary during that whole process?
They were.
So this is all part of it?
This was all part of it. There were cameras all over that theater when we came into it, and it was just crews everywhere, so you were just kind of like completely on the spot. You couldn't hide from anything. You go into a dressing room or a hallway, there was a camera there. So that was exciting.
How stressful was that? I mean, here you were trying to get a job in a Broadway show, and at the same time being shot for like, a documentary.
It was
That
shocking.
shows warts and all.
But what's interesting about it, and I've talked to, I still wonder to this day, actually, you look at the documentary, and I think Jay Binder says something like, "Oh, she'd be perfect for Tony Yazbeck," and I think to myself, "Did you already cast me and then tell me that it was between you and somebody else, Tony?" I don't know. I always wondered. I was like, I wonder if this was a tactic. You know what I mean? To get me revved up for that day. But I have to say, A Chorus Line was perfect timing because it made me understand why I do what I do again. It's a show that I think should never, ever not be on Broadway. Yeah. Ever. It needs to be here for all of us. It's like ours, like we should claim it as gypsies. And I think there's so many levels of meaning in that show. I think it was, when we were in rehearsal at 890, the first time I saw Charlotte perform, they finally, she was practicing by herself in that room for a long time as Cassie. And she came in and she said, and they were going to let her perform it for all of us for the first time. We just wept out there. We just went, oh, I get it, and there's so much meaning in that show for all of us. So I still wish it was here.
If you could sum up the best part of the experience so far with working on the town, what has it been for you, Tony?
I think it's that our hearts and heads are in the right place with the show. And we didn't just do this so we could come to Broadway. We did it because we believe in the piece. And so the fact that it just came to Broadway was sort of like this icing on the cake for us. We had something special at Barrington, and we told the right story. That's my favorite part, is that the integrity of the work really exists in a firm place. And the fact that people are seeing it, and it resonates with them, and you get to see people afterwards at the stage door, and it hits them a little harder than just a piece of nice, happy theater. Yeah. It hits them hard, and they think about it when they go home. And so that makes you feel like you did good work.
Yeah. My final question is, what is the best bit of advice that you've been given, either personally and professionally, that you live by?
Let's see. When I teach, I've been teaching a lot in the past couple of years. I always tell people, know who you are and have that healthy ego. Humble enough that you are a kind of person to everyone, but know who you are. And the second thing is beware of the poisonous people around you that want to tear you down because you're an artist. And that's a fragile thing to be. You got something to say, and you have a lot of interesting, expressive ways of doing it. And there are vultures out there. And so you have to really be aware and move away from them, and just be around people that love what they do even more, because that collaboration, I think, is the key to like every successful thing you can do.
Yeah. It is so wonderful to watch what has happened. Only in New York, sirens going by on 46th Street. Here we go. What I love about your career is that I remember sitting in the St. James Theater watching you as that little newsboy.
Oh, yeah.
And then watching what happened to your career is so amazing.
It's pretty incredible. I have to give it a little bit up to, just my faith, and knowing that, my faith has kind of, kept me through this entire time, and going, somebody is looking out for me. It's pretty incredible what has happened, I definitely can't take the credit for that.
New York, New York, New York. It's a hell of a town. We've got one day here and not another minute to see the famous sights.
We'll find the romance and danger waiting in it beneath the Broadway lights.
Oh, we've hair on our chests, so what we like the best are the nights.
Sight lights.
Nights, New York, New York, a hell of a town. The Bronx is up, but the Battery's down. The people riding a hole in the ground. New York, New York, it's a hell of a town.